Greece is the front line for Europe's refugee crisis. At one point, tens of thousands of asylum seekers were arriving here every day. The country is overwhelmed. But the European Union has stepped in. From 2014 to 2020, the EU has made available $1.8 billion to Greece to help it manage the crisis. But now there are questions about how this money is being spent. This is Moria, Greece's largest and most notorious refugee camp on the island of Lesbos. The camp is overcrowded, dirty and dangerous. Food is a particular concern.
The food is not for a human. Smelling very old food. Sometimes people fight, even injured each other.
In this mobile phone video, refugees in Moria are throwing away food given to them in protest over its quality. Other refugees we spoke to in Lesbos complained of not having electricity or water and shelter with no heating. Moria is at the center of a scandal over the suspected misuse of EU funds meant for refugees. Catering companies and other service providers for the camp are accused of overcharging for contracts, and the suspicion is the contracts were awarded without going through the usual bidding process. Gabriel Serites is political editor of Philadelphios based in Athens. His newspaper wrote about the allegations related to Moria, and it accused former defense minister Panos Kamenos of giving lucrative contracts to close business associates. The day after the article was published, 3 journalists from Philadelphios were arrested for libel. They were released the same day. Kamenos denies the accusations and is now suing the newspaper for defamation.
And now, after all these years, we still have these pictures coming from Moria with children attempting suicide. A few days ago, a refugee at Evros said he wanted to kill himself because the food he has to eat is not fit for humans. This is the general picture. And on the other hand, you have $1.8 billion, which went where exactly?
The European Union's anti-fraud agency is now investigating Greece about how it spent money intended for refugees. This building is another example of how Greece hasn't properly used EU funds. In 2017, around $1.5 million was allocated to develop this building and several others to house unaccompanied refugee children, but none of them have been refurbished and they're all empty. I put these allegations to Greece's immigration minister.
The money Greece has received from the EU is about $900 million in the last 4 years. And this money, which hasn't only been used by the Greek state, but also by the UNHCR, has been spent on creating apartments for refugees in other facilities. I don't think it's fair to focus exclusively on the problems located in 2 reception centers and overlook what we have built in the other 32 facilities.
Karatepe is another camp for refugees, also on the island of Lesbos. But unlike Moria, Karatepe is run by the local government and not the immigration ministry. And it has a limit on the number of refugees it accepts. The refugees we spoke to here have no complaints about the food or shelter.
In Moria, you have to wait in food line 12 hours a day. Over here, you can do whatever you want. You're not bound to stand in food line, in toilet lines or anything.
We spoke to the deputy commander of the Moria camp and told him about the complaints refugees made over the food.
It is very good because it is tested and examined from let's say, from special committees, and they have 4 days per week they have meet. We ask their needs. No, actually no, and they take 2 and 3 times. No, on that I don't accept it.
Dimitris Vitsas insists his government hasn't wasted EU money meant for refugees, but he does accept that there are serious issues facing the Moria camp.
The official information that we have right now from the European Commission is that the investigations that it has carried out, by the way, the Greek government itself is also performing investigations, haven't resulted in any kind of squander or mismanagement of the funds. Of course, there have been formal allegations, the details of which we are not aware of, meaning that we have asked the European Commission what these allegations were, but they said the anti-fraud agency was now handling them. Any allegation will be examined by the Greek government, and in case anything comes out, which so far hasn't, it will be handed over to the Greek courts.
Refugees in Moria are already emotionally damaged by war. Psychologists there say the camp only worsens their trauma. One NGO says 30% of the people it assessed in Moria have attempted suicide. Haider Abbasi, The Newsmakers, Athens, Greece.